The post-nuclear wasteland of Fallout New Vegas solidified the post-post-apocalypse as my favorite fictional setting, and hopefully I can explain why. The reason Fallout's world is so interesting to me can be simplified into one fact. After a few generations, individual groups would have such wildly varied technologies and cultures that it gives the creators a chance to explore several different states of humanity all at the same time and interacting with each other. The tribals of Zion Canyon are superstitious, caring, deeply spiritual, and worship the firearm, all while being almost completely detached from modern language, while the Brotherhood of Steel lives in underground vaults stockpiling the greatest technological achievements of the pre-war civilization. There's a vast world of difference between post-war groups, yet only a few miles of distance between them. So, when looking at Fallout as a whole, the main question that's asked by the world seems to be, what should and shouldn't be carried over from pre-war civilization to post-war? And every group has a different answer, which New Vegas spends a considerable amount of time looking at, and it seems to be the main theme of the game. The New California Republic seemed to think we were generally on the right track aside from the resource wars that sparked the nuclear holocaust, so they try to model their fledgling country after old America's democracy, attempting to base their power off of control of trade routes and providing free citizenship to those who seek it, even if they're unable to contribute much more than a piece of advice for a few caps or some booze. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have Caesar's Legion. Caesar sees old world convenience as the thing that ultimately led civilization to imploding in on itself, and upon seeing just how far society has degraded in just a few hundred years after the bombs, he decides to dig up a model of society old enough to suit the untamed nature of the wasteland and humanity. Roman civilization.
In Rome, I found a template for a society equal to the challenges of the post-apocalyptic world. A society that could and would survive. A society that could prevent mankind from fracturing and destroying itself in this new world by establishing a new Pax Romana.
Where the NCR spreads out to obtain new trade routes, ultimately spreading itself too thin to control the citizens they give freedom to, Caesar's Legion doesn't touch a land unless they intend to conquer it completely. The NCR tries to work with third parties, and the Legion tries to become the only party. They do this by enslaving everyone they can, and training merciless soldiers who fight amongst themselves for dominant positions and booby-trapping the dead to stir fear in their enemies. The ruthless face the Legion puts up allows them to easily conquer most places and convert their inhabitants into productive, drug-free drones. Players who side with the Legion will eventually get to hear Caesar's side of the story, and how the brilliantly spoken and well-read follower of the apocalypse eventually came to be a ruthless mass conqueror. Caesar also spends no small amount of time discussing why he tries to oppose the NCR, and a playthrough at Caesar's side will eventually have you questioning if Caesar's cruel treatment of his ranks and his enemies is exactly what the Mojave needs. Perhaps the NCR give too much freedom to their citizens. Humanity has essentially been converted to an infantile race, and maybe they need to be controlled as an infant does so that they can avoid hurting themselves and grow to be healthy and strong. The NCR seems to ignore the problems that led humanity to its doom, wanting to return things to the way that they were, while Caesar perhaps underestimates the great minds of the Waste's ability to lead society into a healthy direction. Modeling a society after the Romans might just be a little bit too far. For tribal groups like the White Legs of Zion Canyon or the Great Khans of Red Rock Canyon, strong leadership based around a sparse use of technology and ruthless expansion might seem like a pretty good deal. But to the NCR, the Brotherhood of Steel, or the practically lawless inhabitants of New Vegas, all of which are accustomed to technology, the change to such a controlling, primitive society would be jarring, and dangerous for everyone involved. Perhaps Caesar sees society as primitive because he came from further east, where things are seemingly much more primitive as the desert takes over. East of the Mojave could be completely tribal like Zion Canyon, and perhaps Caesar only became a follower of the apocalypse after one of their mission trips bringing literature to the east. As fans are no doubt screaming, there's a third party fighting for control of the Mojave. Robert House. Where the NCR are simply trying to model society on the old world, House has been able to continue doing the exact same type of research and enterprising he was doing before the bombs dropped. His ideal New Vegas involves selling the power and clean water from Hoover Dam to any compliant parties, namely the NCR. His Securitrons can easily keep the Mojave clear of the NCR's interference, and he can use the money from his trades to expand, attract more visitors to the Strip and settlers to the Mojave. The NCR seemingly have no plan beyond expanding, letting more citizens into the ranks, and barely managing to control trade routes. while House has a spoken, tangible plan to keep the major powers of the Wastes in balance, and build up the Mojave to eventually become a state, closer to what was seen in the Old World than anything the NCR or the Legion can manage. The NCR might have wide lands full of enterprising businessmen, but they also have ridiculous amounts of crime and seemingly endless frontiers to explore right outside their city centers. House's Securitrons can easily deal with both of those issues. However, like the bear and the bull, there's a major flaw if society were to take off in his direction. It would be a plutocracy. Where the NCR prides itself on its freedom, House seemingly wants nothing to do with you unless you're producing. The downtrodden and crippled would more than likely be turned away and exiled from House's Mojave, forced to move west to the NCR. House could provide you with absolutely everything a society needs to thrive and expand, but only if you started out with something of your own. You can make a great fortune trying out your luck or business skills on the New Vegas Strip, but only if you have the 1,500 caps to get inside in the first place. House is the only reliable answer for steadily building up the Mojave to a place you'd actually want to live, but before long it's destined to become evil, sapping the resources of the NCR by causing their traders to migrate east to the more lucrative trade routes of the Mojave, and taking a huge cut of their economy, degrading the public welfare, thus causing more normal citizens to seek the bright lights of Vegas. If House wins the Mojave, the Waste will eventually be ruled by chemmed-up businessmen draining the life out of everything they touch, either slowly by taxing the NCR and the Mojave's own businesses to hell, or quickly by scamming poor gamblers out of all their money with nice chems and nice prostitutes to encourage them to keep spending past their limits. The bear, the bull, or the leech.